She was just a young woman on a red motorcycle, smiling at the Lagos sunrise, hurrying to a wedding. But one ordinary checkpoint changed everything. 3 officers, 1 order to stop, and a moment that turned power into shame. "Stop right there," they said. She stopped. A question, a sneer, then a slap. The sound echoed across the dusty road. The crowd froze, not knowing they had just witnessed the beginning of a storm, because the woman they insulted was not a nobody. She was the hand of justice, hidden in plain clothes, and by the time they discovered who she truly was, the system itself would shake. Before we begin, pause for a second, hit subscribe, drop a comment below. Tell us your thoughts and the country you're watching from. Because this will challenge everything you thought you knew about power, courage, and the people who quietly fight for what's right. Ready, let's begin. Early on a warm Saturday morning in Lagos, Bella Lawson rode her small red motorcycle through the busy road to Ikja. The sun was gentle, the air smelled of dust and roasted corn, and she was smiling under her light scarf. She looked like any ordinary young woman enjoying freedom on the road. No official car followed her, no escort, no hint that she worked for the government. Only she knew she was a senior officer in the state service department. As she thought about her friend's wedding and the music that would greet her there, she laughed softly to herself. "I just hope they don't finish the jollof before I arrive," she said aloud, shaking her head. A few kilometers later, her smile faded. Up ahead she saw a line of police officers and a wooden barrier. A checkpoint. 3 of them stood lazily under a small umbrella, but the man in the center looked sharp and proud in his uniform. His name tag read Inspector Paulson Ade. He raised a baton high and pointed straight at her. "Park there, stop madam," he shouted. Bella slowed down and parked at the side of the road. She removed her helmet. "Good morning, officer," she said politely. "Morning," he looked her up and down. "Where are you rushing like this? You think this road is race track?" "I'm going to a friend's wedding in Ikja," Bella replied, still calm. Paulson smirked. "Ah, a wedding, so you want to enjoy yourself while the rest of us melt in this sun. But tell me, madam, where is your helmet?" "I just removed it," she answered. "I was wearing it." "You were wearing it," he laughed. "You think you can fool me? You were flying like wind without helmet. That's a fine offense. Bring your license." Bella felt a wave of irritation but kept her composure. "Officer, I haven't broken any rule. I obeyed the speed limit and I had my helmet on. Please let me continue." Paulson's smile disappeared. "Are you trying to teach me the law? You think I don't know my job?" Another officer, Corporal Dan, whispered something to him and laughed. Paulson's eyes hardened. He said coldly, "When police speak, you obey. No argument. Or do you want to spend the afternoon proving you can shout louder than me?" "I only said the truth," Bella replied quietly. "There's no need for threats." He stepped close enough for her to smell his breath. "You sound very confident, madam. That mouth of yours needs discipline." Before she could react, he slapped her hard across the face. The sound strung through the air. Roadside sellers watching from a distance froze in shock. Bella staggered a step back, raised a hand to her cheek and straightened. Her voice was steady. "Did you just hit a woman because she disagreed with you?" Paulson laughed harshly. "You still talk after I warn you." Corporal Dan grinned. "Ogre, make we carry her go station. She go learn respect there." "Yes," said Paulson. "We'll continue the lesson inside. Move her." Another constable grabbed Bella's arm. She jerked free instantly. "Do not touch me," she said, her tone cutting through their noise. "You have no right." Her eyes held such authority that for a moment they hesitated, unsure why they felt nervous. Then Paulson shouted, "Arrest her," and they rushed forward. One of them swung his stick and smashed the side mirror of her motorcycle. "You people are going too far," she said. "You will see far when we reach the station," Paulson replied. They pushed her toward the truck parked nearby. Someone from the small crowd called out timidly, "Officer, she didn't do anything." Paulson turned toward the voice and the crowd fell silent. Nobody dared speak again. The ride to the station seemed endless even though it took less than 10 minutes. The truck smelled of sweat and fuel. Bella kept her hands folded, lips pressed tight. Now she understood exactly what these men were, bullies hiding behind the uniform. At the station, Paulson jumped down first and barked orders. "Bring me a chair, open file, we have a special guest." Bella was led inside a shabby building. Paint peeled from the walls, a broken fan creaked overhead. Paulson sat behind a wooden desk tapping his pen. He said, "So, madam, let's start again. Name?" Bella did not answer. Address? Still silence. He slammed his palm on the table. "I am speaking to you." Bella stared at him with calm eyes. "You already said I was guilty before you asked anything. What else is there to say?" That answer made him angrier. "You want to act wise? Fine, what's your name then?" "Jessica Brooks," she said evenly, giving a false name. Paulson copied it down, muttering, "Another liar. We'll see if this one will still talk later." He motioned to his men. "Take her inside, put her in the cell." Inside the dark cell, 2 women sat on the floor. They looked up when she entered. One asked, "Sister, what did you do?" "Apparently I existed in the wrong place," Bella said, sitting down beside them. The women laughed softly, surprised by her calmness. Through the bars they could hear the inspectors outside. Paulson's voice carried through the corridor. "Write it down, theft and blackmailing attempt, that one will hold her." Another officer hesitated. "Sir, what about evidence?" "Evidence," Paulson answered with a grin. "In this station, evidence is created, do as I say." From the cell, Bella heard every word. She folded her hands tightly and whispered to herself, "So this is what happens to ordinary people." Time crawled by. She watched a small lizard run across the wall. Somewhere inside she decided she would not reveal who she truly was, not yet. If she spoke now, only a few men would be punished. She wanted the whole system exposed. An hour later, the air changed. A car stopped outside. A deep, commanding voice came from the doorway. "Who is in charge here?" The entire station went silent. Chief Superintendent Samuel Obiora entered. His reputation in Lagos was that of a strict but fair man. He looked around. Then at Bella, who was standing calmly behind the bars. "What is going on here?" he asked. Paulson stepped forward quickly. "Nothing serious, sir. Just one stubborn woman disturbing the road. We brought her in for correction." "Correction," Obiora repeated slowly. "What crime exactly?" "Speeding and refusal to cooperate," Paulson said, wiping sweat from his forehead. The chief superintendent studied Bella more closely. Something about her calm posture did not look like that of an ordinary woman. "Madam, what's your name?" She looked at him but said nothing. Paulson gave a short laugh. "You see, sir, she thinks silence will save her." Obiora's eyes turned cold. "Keep her alone in the second cell," he said quietly. "I will handle this myself." "Yes, sir," Paulson nodded, but unease moved across his face. The constables obeyed. Bella was taken to another cell, smaller and darker. A broken table stood in one corner and a rusted iron rod lay on the floor. When the door locked behind her, she sat on the ground and took a deep breath. In the stillness she could hear voices, distant music, and the buzz of a light above her. She whispered, "So this is the law we serve." Her cheek still burned from the slap, but there was no fear in her eyes, only decision. She knew this day would not end quietly. For a few minutes the station returned to its usual noise, pens scratching, men talking, phones ringing, but nothing was ordinary anymore. Something had shifted. The men who laughed outside did not know that the woman behind the iron bars was an officer higher than most of them, a woman with the power to investigate anyone in that room. She leaned her head against the wall and whispered again, "Let's see how deep this rot goes." Outside, the evening sun turned red over Lagos. Inside, history waited to move. The truth, silent but alive, sat in the darkness with her. When justice finally arrived, it would start right here, with the woman they thought was just another girl on a bike. A few hours had passed since Bella Lawson was locked into the damp cell at the small police station in Agege. Evening was beginning to slide across Lagos. The noise of the city, the horns, the calls of street sellers, filtered faintly through the barred window. Inside, time moved slowly. She sat on the cold floor, thinking about the officer who had struck her in public. Anger burned deep inside her chest, but her face remained steady. It was not just about one corrupt man. She could already see the larger chain that connected him to others. She wanted all of it uncovered. From the main office came raised voices. One constable complained that it made no sense to keep a woman without a proper charge. The inspector silenced him with a shout. "Do as I say," Paulson roared. "I am the one in charge here. If she wants to keep quiet, she'll stay here all night." Bella could hear every word. She closed her eyes and whispered, Keep shouting, Inspector. The louder you are, the deeper your hole becomes. Paulson walked back into the corridor. Where is her file? He demanded. A constable handed him a folder. Sir, the commander said he would come again before nightfall. Paulson scowled. Let him come, he won't change anything. He loosened his collar, still angry that this woman had dared to look him in the eye after he hit her. His pride was demanding revenge. When darkness settled, Chief Superintendent Obiera returned to the station. His car's headlights flashed across the yard, and all the junior officers hurried to stand correctly. He entered with a file tucked under his arm. Inspector Paulson, he said in a quiet, sharp voice, I want to see the woman you detained. Paulson quickly led him to the corridor. She's here, sir. Obiera looked into the cell. Bella was sitting against the wall, composed as if she were waiting for a meeting rather than imprisonment. Obiera frowned. Has she been questioned properly? Yes, sir, said Paulson. She refuses to cooperate, so we charged her with theft and blackmail. Blackmail, Obiera repeated. Do you have any evidence for that? Paulson hesitated, then forced a laugh. We'll get the evidence tomorrow. The commander's tone hardened. Inspector, this is not how stations should work. You don't invent crimes. Paulson forced a smile. Sir, sometimes we must act fast. You know how Lagos people can be. Obiera ignored him and turned to Bella. Madam, he said gently, I asked you earlier for your name. Will you now tell me? I may be able to help. Bella raised her eyes to him. If I tell you my name, the game will end too soon, she said evenly. I want to see how many will fail before the truth arrives. The officers who were standing nearby exchanged nervous looks. Obiera watched her curiously, sensing something unusual. You speak as if you're not an ordinary citizen, he said. She gave a small smile. Ordinary citizens know their rights, but they rarely get to use them. Obiera sighed. Very well, we will find out who you are our own way. Then to Paulson he said, write a report and forward it to the commissioner tonight. Paulson nodded, but resentment filled his eyes. When the commander left for a brief call outside, Paulson returned to the office muttering, She will regret this before morning. I'll teach her what silence costs. A few minutes later, the noise of an engine echoed outside. A sleek black SUV entered the compound. Everyone straightened again. No one expected more senior officers that late. The gate guard shouted, Commissioner's car, sir. Paulson froze. Commissioner. He quickly cleaned the sweat from his face and adjusted his cap. The Commissioner of Police for Lagos Mainland, Mr. Darren Cole, stepped out of the car with 2 aides. His expression already carried anger. Where is Inspector Paulson? He called as he entered. Paulson hurried forward. Sir, good evening, sir. The Commissioner's first words hit like stones. What is happening here, Inspector? I received a report of a woman being slapped and arrested for no reason. Paulson forced a smile. It's a small issue, sir. A defiant lady refused to stop at the checkpoint. You merely what? The Commissioner interrupted sharply. You think this city is your private kingdom? Obiera returned from outside, surprised to see him. Sir, I also thought the arrest looked suspicious. I was just beginning to review. The Commissioner held up a hand. He turned toward the cell. Where is the woman? Paulson led him there, his feet suddenly heavy. The Commissioner stopped and looked through the bars. Bella stood up quietly. The Commissioner studied her. Even with dust on her clothes and a bruise on her cheek, she carried herself with grace. Something about her face struck a memory. Madam, he said slowly, what is your name? Bella paused for 2 heartbeats, then spoke clearly. Deputy Director Bella Lawson, State Service Department. The station fell completely silent. Paulson's mouth opened but no sound came out. The constables stared as if lightning had struck between them. Even Obiera stepped back in shock. The Commissioner's expression darkened. Deputy Director, he turned sharply to Paulson. Do you understand what you've done? Paulson stammered. Sir, I didn't know, she never said. She does not need to say, shouted the Commissioner. You are trained to respect every citizen, not to attack them. Obiera said quietly, Sir, I think we should act immediately. This behavior cannot stand. Bella looked through the bars, her voice calm but heavy with meaning. Inspector Paulson, you asked for a lesson. Here it is. Your suspension begins tonight. The Commissioner nodded grimly. Hand over your weapon and your badge right now. Paulson's hands trembled. "Sir, please, just let me explain." "No explanations," the commissioner said coldly. 2 constables escort him to the detention room. They moved forward, but Paulson suddenly reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded document. His voice turned desperate. "Wait, look at this before you do anything." The commissioner looked impatient. "What is that?" "My transfer order, sir," Paulson said quickly. "Signed 3 days ago. I have already been moved out of this division. That means you cannot suspend me. Technically, I am no longer under your command." Obiora grabbed the paper, scanned it and frowned. It looked official. He handed it to Bella. She read quietly, then turned to the commissioner. "We should verify this." The commissioner picked up the phone and called the central office. A few minutes later, Obiora checked the digital register and returned. "The transfer is indeed signed, sir, but the new officer has not yet taken charge. Until that happens, Paulson is responsible for every act committed here." The commissioner's eyes flashed. "Then he remains accountable, take him in." Paulson tried one more time. "Sir, I'm not the only one. Everyone here follows orders from above. Even the top people know what happens at these checkpoints." His words made several officers turn pale. The air in the room thickened. Bella said quietly, "Thank you for confirming what I already suspected." She turned to the commissioner. "We will clean this whole place starting tonight." "Yes, Madam Lawson," he replied. "Every officer linked to this abuse will face investigation." Obiora saluted briskly. "I will begin collecting names." Outside, several journalists who often lingered near the station noticed the unusual movement. Phones rose, pictures were taken, messages sent. Within minutes, news of a high-ranking official assaulted at a checkpoint began to flash across Lagos social media. Inside the station, Obiora lined up the officers. The commissioner announced that an internal inquiry had begun and that any attempt to interfere would lead to immediate suspension. The faces of the constables showed pure fear. They finally understood that the era of blind obedience had ended. Bella stepped out of the cell, her posture straight, her eyes cold. She walked past Paulson, who now sat handcuffed on a bench. "I told you not to touch me," she said quietly, "and now you understand why." He tried to speak, but his voice failed him. The commissioner looked at Bella respectfully. "Madam Lawson, I can't apologize enough for what happened." "I don't need apologies," she answered. "I need change." She looked around at the broken chairs, the torn files, the tired faces of half-trained policemen. For years she had studied corruption through reports and documents. Tonight she had tasted it directly. Obiora said, "We should inform the state director immediately. This news will rise fast." Bella nodded. "Let it rise. The higher it goes, the cleaner this house will become." Outside the station gates, lightning flashed far away. Lagos traffic still roared, unaware that a storm was brewing here, a storm that would soon shake the highest offices. The commissioner's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and went pale. It's the Assistant Inspector General, he already knows. He picked up the call and listened for several moments. When he ended, he sighed heavily. "They want a full report by morning. The case has reached the minister himself." Bella folded her arms. "Then we begin immediately. No one leaves this compound tonight until every fault is listed." She turned to the frightened group of officers. "The law isn't a weapon for pride. From this moment forward, you will learn what service truly means." Outside, thunder rolled above Lagos. The journalists kept recording, and the first headlines had already appeared online. "Senior government officer assaulted by Lagos police. Investigation underway." But the story was far from over. For Bella Lawson, this was only the beginning of something much greater, a battle not against one man, but against the entire structure of fear that had been hiding behind the badge for years. The night air over Lagos carried the weight of thunder and unanswered questions. By dawn, the story was everywhere: radio, online, even on buses painted with political slogans. "Senior officer assaulted by Lagos police." Names were not yet printed, but everyone in the city talked about the mysterious woman who had turned a police station upside down. Inside the Age division, sleepless officers waited for decisions. Papers lay scattered, phones kept ringing, and fear sat on every face. Bella Lawson entered the main hall again at 7 in the morning. She had slept only a few hours in the guest room reserved for government auditors, yet she looked sharp and rested. The Commissioner and Chief Superintendent Obiera were already standing by a table covered in files. "Madam Lawson," said the Commissioner respectfully, "the Ministry requested a full investigation team. They'll arrive by noon." "That's good," she replied, "but before they come we start cleaning. We'll question every person connected to yesterday's shift." Paulson, the disgraced inspector, sat in a corner still handcuffed. His uniform hung loose, his eyes swollen from a night without sleep. Bella turned toward him. "Inspector Paulson," she said, "you mentioned last night that others were involved. Who are they?" He remained silent. The Commissioner spoke coldly. "You understand, Inspector, every minute you hide the truth makes your punishment worse." After a long pause, Paulson said weakly, "Even if I speak, you won't touch the real ones. They sit too high." "Try me," said Bella. "Names." He shook his head and said almost in a whisper, "Start with the SP, Superintendent Patrick Duke. He is the one who tells us how to collect road money." The Commissioner's expression hardened. "Are you certain?" Paulson nodded. "He visits here every week. We pay him percentages from every checkpoint." Bella turned to Obiera. "Get Duke here immediately." An hour later, Patrick Duke arrived in his glossy white car, confident as ever. He entered the station frowning and said, "What's all this noise about suspensions? Don't you people sleep?" When he noticed Bella seated in front of the desk, he looked surprised. "You again, the woman from—" He stopped mid-sentence as memory struck. Bella met his eyes. "Yes, the woman from that checkpoint. Sit down, Superintendent." He laughed uneasily. "I think there's been some misunderstanding." The Commissioner interrupted sharply. "You will answer a few questions. How long have you been collecting illegal levies from patrols under your supervision?" Duke tried to play innocent. "Sir, I don't understand what you mean." Bella opened a file and slid a page across the table. "We found your signature releasing weekly field allowances that never reached official records. We also found deposits in your brother's account that matched the same amounts taken from checkpoints. Explain that." Duke's smile vanished. "You went through my accounts." "Yes," she said calmly. "You forget that the State Service Department does not sleep either." He looked around helplessly. "Madam Lawson, you can't do this without due process." "You already ignored due process," she replied. "Yesterday I was the victim, today the system is." The Commissioner stood. "Patrick Duke, you are under arrest pending investigation for bribery, extortion and abuse of office." Shocked murmurs filled the hall. Duke shouted, "This is madness, you'll all regret this," but two constables stepped forward and removed his badge. Bella looked at the silent crowd of officers. "Anyone else want to tell me he's innocent before we continue?" No one answered. Through the window they could see more government vehicles arriving outside, internal affairs investigators, a few journalists and two plainclothes officers from the ministry. The station that had once bullied the streets now looked smaller than ever. By midday the interrogation room overflowed with files, receipts and confessions typed quickly by trembling constables. Each revelation opened another chapter of corruption. Obiera spoke quietly to Bella. "Madam, it seems half the division will be suspended. People are calling this the largest internal arrest in years." Bella replied, "Let it be large. The bigger the storm, the cleaner the sky." The Commissioner's phone rang again. He listened for a moment, then handed it to her. "It's the Deputy Governor's office. They want to speak to you directly." On the line came the Deputy Governor's voice, formal but supportive. "Madam Lawson, the Governor has heard everything. Continue your work. You have full authority to act. We can't afford another scandal, but we can't hide this either." "Understood, sir," Bella answered. "Transparency will save us more than silence." When she ended the call, Obiera smiled faintly. "You just got permission to shake the whole system." "I didn't need permission," she said, "but it helps." That evening the storm that had only brewed now roared. News vans stopped outside, cameras pointed at the gate, reporters shouted questions. No one inside was allowed to speak except Bella Lawson. She stepped forward to the reporters and said simply, "This is not about me. This is about trust. We're rebuilding it." Her calm words spread quickly online. Thousands of comments praised the unknown officer who refused to stay silent. Inside, officers began returning ill-gotten money. Some cried, some begged. Paulson watched from his corner, his pride crushed. Finally he said to Bella, "Madam, for what it's worth, I'm sorry." She looked at him for a long moment. If you truly mean that, testify. Tell the truth about everyone above you. He nodded slowly. I will. By nightfall, the written statements filled 3 large folders. The commissioner sealed them personally and signed the official handover to the Ministry of Justice. Obira looked at Bella again. Today the foundation cracked, but tomorrow the whole house could fall. The people you're exposing are powerful, they won't keep quiet. They will try to fight back, Bella said simply, but I don't bend to threats. The commissioner added, I hear the state police headquarters will send the SP himself tonight to restore order. Let him come, said Bella. He's part of the file too. At 8 o'clock, the headlights of another official car flashed in the yard. Officers rushed to line up. Superintendent Patrick Duke was already under custody, yet now his superior, the state superintendent Solomon Peters, entered with forced calm. What's going on here? He demanded. Why is the media outside? Who allowed this circus? The commissioner began to explain, but Bella stepped forward. Superintendent Peters, we have evidence linking your office to the illegal transfers. Do you deny it? Peters glared. Who do you think you are to interrogate me? She replied coldly, Deputy Director Bella Lawson from the State Service Department. He actually froze for a second, then forced a laugh. Oh, that's who you are. Madam Lawson, government people like you don't understand how field operations work. Sometimes we do what we must. What you call necessity, she answered, the rest of us call corruption. The commissioner placed another file on the table. Superintendent Peters, these are records of your approval for off-book payments. We have witness statements as well. Peters looked around at the silent officers. All of you will regret this, he muttered. No, sir, said Obira quietly. Maybe for once in Lagos we'll start living without fear. Bella nodded to the commissioner. Please proceed. Within minutes, the highest-ranking officer in the division was arrested. Cameras outside caught glimpses of handcuffs flashing under streetlights. The news tore through the city like wind. By midnight, the state capital buzzed. The governor ordered a full inquiry. The Minister of Justice demanded reports. The people who once whispered about police abuse now shouted proudly about accountability. In her quiet moment after the chaos, Bella stepped outside to the veranda. The rain had started falling lightly. She looked up at the sky streaked with lightning and thought of her late father, who had served as a constable decades earlier and died disappointed at how the system had decayed. She whispered, I promised you I would change it, Papa. Tonight the promise begins. Inside, Obira approached her holding a fresh document. Madam, the federal inspection team will arrive at dawn. They want your direct supervision for the remaining arrests. Bella tucked the paper under her arm. Then we keep working. No one sleeps until every signature in these files answers for itself. The commissioner smiled faintly. I wish we had more people like you. Maybe then Lagos would finally breathe. She replied, It will breathe, Commissioner. It will also remember. Thunder rolled again across the horizon as the faint glow of dawn began to touch the clouds. The second day of the operation was only beginning, but the city already felt different, still tense, still rough, but aware that someone at last had dared to strike back. And somewhere beyond the station walls, people who had never met Bella Lawson were whispering her name with new respect. Morning light fell softly across Lagos. The rain from the night before had washed the streets clean, but inside the police headquarters the air still crackled with tension. Every eye in the city now turned toward one woman, Bella Lawson. Reporters followed her car, editors sent camera crews, and people on buses discussed her name as though she were a legend instead of a quiet, serious civil servant who only wanted honesty in uniform. Inside the main hall, piles of documents covered the tables. Arrest lists stretched to 2 full pages. Constables carried boxes of files like students delivering homework. Chief Superintendent Obira and the Commissioner looked exhausted, yet strangely satisfied. Madam Lawson, Obira said as she entered, the federal team just arrived. They've verified everything. Over 40 officers will face formal charges. Bella nodded. Then we did what had to be done, but this is only the beginning. We uncover the rot and then we rebuild. The Commissioner asked gently, Are you ready for the backlash? The ones higher than Peters and Duke will not forgive this. They'll try to bury your findings. Bella picked up a folder and said, If truth dies in silence, then speaking is worth any cost. He smiled faintly. You remind me of someone I once worked with, a good man who believed the same. He didn't survive politics. That's why I'm not playing politics, she said. I'm just doing my job. While they talked, 2 black jeeps stopped outside. The Regional Special Investigation Bureau officers walked in with their recorders and cameras. Their leader, Director Martin Cole, greeted Bella firmly. We've read your preliminary report. Extraordinary work, he said. But now we need to follow the money. Do you have proof that links them to outside officials? Bella opened the folder. Every transaction, every name, every date. Here are the accounts used to move the illegal funds into private companies. Martin glanced through it quickly and whistled. You weren't joking. This goes way beyond a few bad officers. It's an infection, said Bella, and I want the cure, not a bandage. He said, then the operation goes federal. You'll supervise as our liaison. But be cautious, this story already reached Abuja. The phones are ringing all night. They were interrupted by a loud commotion from the corridor. 2 constables dragged in a man in civilian clothes, handcuffed. He was struggling violently. Who's that? Bella asked. Obiora replied, That's SB Patrick Duke's accountant. They caught him trying to burn documents at his house. Bella walked closer. Why were you destroying evidence? She asked. The man glared at her. You think one woman can change anything? Another 100 will be just like them when this is over. Bella stared for a long moment before answering. Maybe, but for today you won't destroy another page. The accountant sneered. People at the top will protect themselves. You'll see, the system always survives. She said quietly, systems change when enough people refuse to look away. She turned to the officers. Put him with the others. Nobody leaves this building. As they dragged him off, the commissioner's phone rang again. He listened in silence, then said, Understood, sir. When he hung up, he looked anxious. That was the governor. The state security chief is on his way with central government orders. A full inquiry will now include political figures. Obiora whispered, That means this is about to explode. Bella remained calm. Good, the illness hides behind power no one dares question. Let the light reach there. A half-hour later, the building trembled slightly as a convoy stopped outside. The state security chief *, Commander Marcus Adebio, walked in surrounded by aides and cameras. He greeted Bella with an evaluating smile. So you're the famous deputy director causing half of Lagos to tremble? She answered evenly, Only the guilty need to tremble, sir. The commander laughed, appreciating her courage. You have stirred a hornet's nest, Lawson. Some people at the ministry think you're dangerous. I'm dangerous only to corruption, she replied. If the ministry fears that, then the ministry needs to be cleaned too. Direct as ever, he said. You're making my job difficult but entertaining. Then, turning serious, however, the public wants results, not arguments. We'll make arrests before the weekend. They've already started, Bella said. 80% of the illegal fund trail is traced. All names are here. She handed him a summary file. Marcus read for a few moments and sighed. You realize this implicates a senior commander at headquarters. If we proceed, this will shake Abuja itself. Then let it shake, said Bella. Maybe the noise will wake the right people. He gave a short nod. Very well, you'll accompany me tomorrow when we meet the governor for a briefing. When Marcus left, Obiora turned to her. He's impressed, but he's also afraid. These men are not used to women exposing them. The truth doesn't choose gender, she said. It only waits for someone brave enough to speak. By afternoon, the station courtyard filled with press vans. Headlines now used her full name. Bella Lawson cleans Lagos police from within. Children in schools repeated her name. Traders in markets argued whether she would survive politics. In taxis, people prayed for her safety. Inside, she barely looked up from her work. She read each confession carefully, marking inconsistencies in red ink. Each signature was proof that ordinary people had been bullied for years. Every confession was a piece of someone's stolen dignity being returned. As evening approached, Obiora came with surprising news. Madam, SB Duke has written an official statement. He admits everything and also claims that even the SB General, his superior, was part of the network. Bella leaned back. He finally decided to speak the truth. Fear sometimes helps justice find its voice. Obiora looked worried. If the SB General goes down, politicians will panic. They'll try to erase you. They can try, she answered. I'm past caring about comfort. At that moment, a young constable approached nervously. "Madam Lawson, there's a crowd outside asking to see you." "A crowd?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am, people from the local markets, families who lost money to bribes. They heard you're the one cleaning up." Bella went outside. Over 100 people stood near the gate. Some clapped, others held small hand-painted boards reading, "Thank you, Madam Asterisk, and we believe again." An old woman stepped forward with tears in her eyes. "My son was jailed for nothing," the woman said. "They took our savings before they released him. Nobody ever helped, now we see hope." Bella reached out and held the woman's hand gently. "Hope is stronger than fear, Mama. We will keep it alive." The crowd cheered softly. Several officers watching from inside suddenly understood the respect that real service could create. That night, when the crowd had dispersed, Bella sat on the veranda with Obiora and the commissioner. The city lights glowed around them like tiny stars. The air smelled of wet earth and diesel. Obiora said, "You've changed this station forever. What will you do now?" She smiled slightly. "Return to work. There are hundreds of other stations." The commissioner laughed quietly. "I suspect Lagos will never forget your name." "Names are nothing," she said. "Let them remember the lesson instead. The law should never be a toy." He studied her for a moment. "Do you ever get tired?" "Yes," she admitted, "but the truth doesn't, so I move with it." Later, when they all went silent, thunder murmured again far away. Bella looked toward the sound. "The storm isn't over," she whispered. "It's only moving higher." By dawn the next day, the inquiry had spread beyond Lagos. Across the country, officers began checking their own records nervously. Fear of exposure turned into sudden discipline. Ordinary citizens walked a little taller, believing perhaps that honesty could still win. 2 days later, the governor held a press conference. He stood beside Bella Lawson and announced the suspension of dozens of senior officers statewide. Cameras flashed as he said, "Today we prove that no one stands above the law, not even those meant to defend it." The hall erupted in applause. When the conference ended, a journalist asked Bella a final question. "Madam Lawson, what lesson would you like the nation to learn from your experience?" She looked directly into the cameras and answered, "That silence protects corruption and courage repairs nations. You don't need power to change things. You only need integrity and persistence." Those words played on television across Nigeria that night. In tea shops and offices, people repeated them with pride. Back at her small house, Bella finally allowed herself a moment of peace. She placed her father's old police medal on her desk and whispered, "We did it, Papa. The law breathes again." Thunder faded into calm rain. In Lagos, a new morning began, quiet, uncertain, but cleaner than the one before.